Well, first of all, good evening from New York, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. You guys are the first club to actually listen to a presentation regarding the 3 Yankee Zero Juliet Bouvet Island 2023 DXpedition. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to prepare a real presentation. I'm actually glad I still have a job after being away for 2 months on the sea. And my wife actually waited for me at the airport. So with these good news, I put together some pictures that I could present, and that will help me give some kind of a fluency of the story. So let's see if I can share my screen. Is that possible?
Sure. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
Click up on his window.
I'm looking.
Should just be able to click share, Adrian. I think you're.
Let's see if right now it's disabled.
Should be at the top of your screen.
Yeah, but we have to make him a co-host or something first.
I think we can just
Yeah, who shares?
share screen. Share me local.
Yeah.
No, we can-
I see him full screen here.
Yeah, bear with us for just a second, Adrian. We'll figure this out.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The little arrow next to the share screen, right there.
Now advanced.
Advanced share options, bottom.
And then you say who can share all participants. That'll do it.
Okay.
The host says that authorized sharing.
Now.
Okay, Adrian, I think you're good to go.
All right, everybody sees this first picture?
Yeah, that's
Now we
excellent.
do.
Okay, so well, the journey started on January 8, 2023. After almost 3 years of preparation, it's been quite a logistics ordeal, let's say. A lot of details, and the last moment we still had to bring some equipment coming from different sponsors, and here it's Caesar, Victor Echo 3 Lima Yankee Charlie, who came from Canada, met me in New York, and we are preparing to fly to London. Again, this is January 8, at the beginning of this year. Next, we arrived in London, and we decided that the whole team will take the same flight for the DXpedition. We were afraid that if different team members will come from different parts of the world, and flights might get canceled. This COVID situation didn't help either. So the idea was that the whole team meets in London, and then from there we'll take a flight together to the Falkland Islands. In London, the UK clubs gave us a festive dinner, and we had a little bit of fun getting to know the hams there. And afterwards, at the lobby of the hotel, we started to talk the details about the latest planning for the flight to the Falklands. The flight is actually a UK military RAF flight that brings supplies to the Falklands. So that flight is never canceled. If the weather is bad, the flight is just delayed until the weather gets better. But because it's never canceled, we decided this is the best way to get to the Falklands. We wanted initially to fly right after New Year's Eve, but we couldn't get that many seats on the flight. So the first available flight was January 10. And as such, we booked 13 tickets, and we started our journey to the Falklands. It is a very long flight, approximately 17 hours. And because of that, it has a refueling stop in Cape Verde and Delta 4. Although most of our equipment and gear was loaded in a container and waiting for us in the Falklands, we still had brought some bags with some equipment, mostly clothing. You can see here the amount of bags we had there in the hotel lobby, waiting to be taken to the airport in London. This is a picture of the team taken in the airport at the RAF airport, and like I said, a military airport somewhere outside London, about 2 hours drive. The getting into the flight was pretty straightforward, not much headache. We had to declare all the electronics prior to the flight a few weeks before that, and all the paperwork was done prior, and everything was in order. We were very happy that we had no headache from this point of view, and we were able to board the flight. This flight, the plane is a regular jumbo jet. It has plenty of seats, so it's not a propeller plane or anything like that. So it had plenty of space for us and for the bags. The flight was almost full. As I said, we had a little stop in D4 for refueling. During the refueling, the rule is that everyone has to get off the plane for safety reasons. So they checked our passports again in the airport. We stayed there for about a couple hours. We didn't get out of the airport, but it was good to stretch our legs and get ready for the next leg of the flight. As I said before, the flight took almost 17 hours, so that's quite a long flight. This is the plane that took us to the Falklands. We arrived at Mount Pleasant area terminal in the Falklands, and from there we collected our gear and we drove to the place where our boat was stationed, about 2 hours drive from the airport. The most important item for us at that moment was our container that traveled from Oslo. The container has been there for more than a month and cleared the customs. It was waiting for us right next to the ship, and this was the moment when we opened the container. Prior to that, a few weeks, we have asked some hams from the Falklands to go and check the container and open it up to see if everything is in order. And to our surprise, or pleasant surprise, we had no issues, and the container was in good shape the way it was packed in Oslo. After that, we unloaded the container. It was a lot of gear, almost 7 tons of equipment. It's easy to say 7 tons, but when you have to carry it and fix it into a sailboat, it's quite a bit of work. It took us about 2 full days of real heavy duty work on taking everything from the container, putting it in a certain order, and also keeping an Excel spreadsheet over where each and every item is located. Some other sailors would pass by and they would make the cross sign, thinking where we're going to put all this gear on a sailboat. But our consultant, who was entrusted in figuring things out, visited the boat prior to when the boat was stationed somewhere in Brazil, and together with the captain, they decided exactly where each and every box and every barrel will be located. We had to give up some of the bathrooms and showers to add more equipment, but that was okay. So each barrel and each box had a label, and we had to know exactly where in each and every item was located. The reason for that is because at the time when we expected to unload it on Bouvet, we needed to do this in stages. You basically want to make sure that you first unload some safety gear, then a little bit of food, then a little bit of rationing, then a little bit of fuel, and then some radios and some antennas and so forth in a specific order. If you're curious about the details, they were posted on our website, the diagrams of what each and every component will be in those 4 stages that we decided to divide our unloading. We had the help of some local workmen. They had this forklift, and that was really good, especially for the heavy items such as the generators, which needed to be encased in some wooden boxes to protect them from the salt spray and so forth. Marama was waiting for us. This is the boat before we unloaded. We loaded all the gear, and as I said, it was quite a bit of work, and everybody had to put quite a bit of effort for 2 full days of loading the boat. That including creating different crates and securing everything. Sometimes we'd secure certain items, and then the captain and our consultant will double check it and said, not good enough. You have to do it this way or that way. Of course, we're hams and not experts in sailing, and we didn't quite understand at the beginning what they were talking about, but when you encounter the first storm in the middle of the Atlantic, then you understand why certain things need to be fastened a lot better than we initially attempted to do it. This is a nice view taken by a drone that one of the hams and the Falcons brought in. It's quite a nice view of our 100-foot French boat called Marama that was to be our home for almost 2 months. The hams in the Falklands also were very gracious, and they invited us for a nice dinner. It was to be the last real meal that we had before we went to sea. We had the chance to have real beer and some good steak. While the boat was after the boat was fully loaded, the boat needed to be refueled, and again the same rule applied. When the boat gets fueled, all the passengers need to get off the boat, and as such, we got a little bit of time off. So for half a day, we went and strolled through the town. Very nice little town for those of you that went to the Sandwich and some other places. This was quite a nice place to visit. Among the items that were on our list was the local museum, and that's because it has a dedicated section for the MH radio. And of course, we all took pictures and wandered in the telecom room and played with all the gadgets and saw some of the old telecom equipment that was used on the island, 50, 100 years before. Then we had our first meal on the boat. One of the crew members, a lady under the name Nina, she was also French. She definitely knows how to cook. The French have food in their DNA, and we had pretty good meals on the boat, and that was quite a good thing. When you're at sea for a very long time, the daily meals become the most important items. This is when everybody gets off from whatever they were hiding or vomiting or strolling on the boat and go to the place where everybody had their meals. It was quite a sight to see all these containers with fuel and water and all the equipment that we brought on the boat. We had to use quite a few techniques to fit them in a small space available on Marama. This is how a bunk looked like. I took this picture in the middle of the sea voyage. I wanted to look very realistic and not the first day when it was clean. This is after, I think, about 10 days at sea. Usually the rooms had a top bank, a bottom bank. The boat was thermally isolated, and that white thing that you see at the top is the thermal isolation of the boat. It was pretty comfortable. The boat had the internal heating. You know, the boat was actually designed for cold weather climate sailing, and that's what the boat has been doing for the past 10-15 years. So it was pretty comfortable, except for the constant movement. But other than that, it was you know, a normal bed, and temperature was nice. This is a picture of the whole team plus the crew. At the top, you can see from the right to left is one of the crew member, Charles, an incredible, skillful sailor. He really helped a lot, and his skills were absolutely amazing when it came to sailing and getting on remote islands. In the middle is the French captain. Olivier. He had sailing in his blood. I was absolutely impressed with his skills of sailing and the way he fooled the weather and moved the boat in such a way so that us mortals won't get too seasick. And of course, to the left is our cook, also French. As I said, her name is Nina. So apart from the crew, everybody got, in a way, seasick more or less, maybe except for our Canadian team member, Caesar. But other than that, we kept busy so that we don't feel so that the time passes a lot slower. Yeah, a lot faster, sorry. So before we left, we were explained how to use these orange gumbo suits. These are thermal suits that allow you to float on the cold weather. It was interesting to see our consultant there, Peter, explaining us how this works and how to get into the suit. And especially when you're in a confined space like in a boat, it was an interesting presentation, let's say, but it turned out that we really put that to good use when we got on Bouvet. This is the boat had three different zodiacs. Marama came with 2 zodiacs, and we also had a third zodiac that we purchased for the DXpedition. One of the zodiacs was on the middle of the boat, one on the back, and one underneath in the lazarette. ICOM gave us these very nifty satellite radios. They work like walkie-talkies, and DX Engineering paid for a full subscription. They were really a lifesaver because we were able to talk unlimited with our pilots, and it's hard to comprehend. But when you're away from home and family, and when the days look the same, it's pretty cool to be able to talk, even if sometimes you just talk nonsense. We kept busy. Everybody had to do 2 shifts of keeping a watch and also driving the boat. At the beginning, we were a bit intrigued by the fact that we were supposed to be doing that, but that actually is pretty good because it kept us busy. We got to do 2 shifts, about 45 minutes each. Each watch shift had 2 people. Of course, we were supervised by the captain. He would tell us what to do and where to go, and it wasn't too complicated, but it kept you busy. As we were closing, Bouvet obviously would get pretty cold, and it was quite a challenge to stay and drive the outside and drive the boat. Sometimes when there was a storm, obviously the captain or the crew would take over, and we would go down below and get into our bunks. It's pretty cool when you start seeing the first icebergs, and of course the first thing comes up to your mind in those cases is Titanic, and then you start watching things around a lot more. But after you keep seeing these icebergs, it becomes the norm, and you're like, oh, okay, another iceberg. Let's just make sure we don't get too close. After about a week, we decided that the smart thing to do is keep busy with the radio. So we installed a radio in the main saloon of the boat. We put an inverted V from one of the outside the boat and one of the masts, and we started operating Maritime Mobile. We made, I think, about 5,000 or 6,000 QSOs. It was pretty cool. Everybody operated whenever they feel like. Some of us will wake up in the middle of the night and either go to the bathroom or, feel too sick to go back into the bunk, and then the radio would take your mind out of the long journey, and it was pretty fun. We got to also explain to the crew what we were trying to do. It took us quite a few days of explaining for them to understand why we want to go on Bouvet and just send 599. But after a while, they got it. This is an example of the scheduling. We had, like I said, teams of 2. It was posted there so everybody can see it. Usually it was a watch during the day and a watch during the night. Again, us operating, everybody got the chance to operate. It was no scheduling whenever somebody felt like it will operate. And this is one of our teammates explaining to the crew what was going on, and you can see the smile on Charles's and pretending to understand what we're doing, but he didn't. But he was happy to oblige and climb the mast and put the antenna there. Then finally, after almost 3 weeks, we had the first sighting of Bouvet. At least for me, it was an unbelievable sight, because the first thing that came to my mind was, finally, we're going to get off the boat. I didn't care about the weather, the cold, the temperatures, the whatever. I really wanted to get off the boat. And it was a good sight. We got there on a very nice day, and we said, okay, this is cool. By the time we got out to take pictures, the storm started. So this was one of the cool pictures, a bit adjusted by the iPhone to look nice, but it was a clear day or a clear hour, I should say. The storm started, and after waiting for a few days around the island, the captain obviously would move the boat in such a way so it would be covered from the storm. What we did is we decided that a 4-man crew will go to the island and get on the island, do a site survey to decide the best way to land, the best way to find the best easiest path to our camping site, and to find the best way or the best location to put the camp. So this is preparation or getting the Zodiac out, one of the Zodiacs out on the water to land. This is the first site, the first Zodiac approach to Bouvet Island. We finally got to see close up the place where we'll be landing and having camp. This looks similar to the pictures on my previous presentation where we're showing what to expect. One of the things that I wanted to mention right here is that our camping site was actually a lot easier. We didn't need to climb anything. We didn't need to climb the glacier or do any complex approaches to the cliff. We basically just put the ladder. We went up for maybe 5-10 feet and then just walked. So that was the easy part. The hard part was to be the getting on the island. This is one of the crew members throwing anchors, and this is the water jugs that we prepared by filling them up with water from the water maker in the boat in preparation for us to get on shore. Most of the island or the sites that we saw around the island are very sharp or steep cliffs, and on top of it is the glacier, basically snow and ice. So the site that we have chosen to land, Cape Fear, was one of the few on the island that was protected from the wind, and at the same time had a real beach, even though it wasn't too wide. This is some other sites that we saw of Bouvet Island. They look pretty cool, but obviously very difficult to get on shore. This is a little view of inside the boat. We're pretty cramped up. You can see a lot of equipment everywhere, but that didn't bother us too much. We really needed to have all that equipment in preparation for being on the island for a long time. This is a view of the kitchen and our cook, Nina. She was really a master both in sailing and cooking. Again, this is our site. The first people got on the island. Once the first 4 people were on the island, basically our consultant and 3 of our teammates. A few hours later, the weather changed pretty quickly, and it took maybe 3 days until the boat was able to come back and get those team members back onto the boat. At that moment, we had our site survey done, and we have looked into a lot of details, and we realized that getting on to the shore by Zodiac was very complicated and very dangerous, and as such, our consultant, together with the crew of the boat, put their heads together and they figured out a different way to get on the island, and that by using ropes. And that was pretty safe, but made it a lot more difficult to bring heavy equipment. So we had a team meeting, and 8 team members decided that they want to go on the island and take the risk of going ashore via rope as opposed to Zodiac. And 4 team members decided that they want to take the risk and they want to stay on the boat. As a matter of fact, it was good that 4 members stayed on the boat because they needed to load and help loading equipment from the boat into the Zodiacs and then bring those equipment to the shore. This is the meeting when pros and cons of each approach was discussed, and our consultant gave us exact instructions of step by step of what needs to be done and how to be done and how to do it safely, what to do in each occasion. And based on that, a plan was done, and 8 team members went ashore. We went ashore by using these survival suits, which basically allow you to float, and then using the an anchor and rope system allowed us to get safely on the shore. Once we get on the shore, we climb that ladder that you see in the back, and from that moment on, up to the cliff was just a walk, and we walked the equipment to the shore. Because we couldn't get a lot of equipment by this procedure, we decided to use the step 1 in our approach, which is, like I said, listed on our website as well. And that approach, the step 1, meant 2 radios, 1 simple generator, and the minimum necessary to get and survive on the island, which means 1 tent, no chairs, no tables, food and supplies to last us at least 10 days. So we went on shore with the idea that after 3 or 4 days when we expected better weather. We would get more equipment, more food, and continue to step 2 or 3 as we had planned before going to Bouvet. This is how it looks like, the jugs of water and some of the equipment there. Most of the important equipment was on these barrels, floating barrel waterproof, which was an incredible idea, and that worked great. This is a little bit of a close-up of the rope system that allowed us to get on shore and get equipment on shore. This is another view of that. You can see the rope in the back of the picture. So this rope will form like a circle, and you tie it up to the rope, and then people onto the shore will pull on the rope to help you get to the shore, but you also have to swim and pull yourself. It's quite an adventure. First time I've done that in my life. We were assured by the crew and our consultant that this is safe, and indeed it was, although it felt quite a roller coaster, we had no issues. One thing that maybe I should mention at this point, at the end of the expedition, we can actually say that nobody got injured or even a scratch, and that means that whatever plan was designed by the people that knew what to do was done appropriately, because now we're here to tell the story, and no one got injured. Life on camp was pretty simple. You operate for about an hour, and then you go back to work. Work meant you would dry your clothing, which get wet all the time. You would repair and check all the ropes that would hold the tent intact. The tent never failed. The type of tent that we have chosen, that the Norwegians are using for their the Norwegian government is using for their employees when they work in the Antarctic areas, hold up pretty well, but little do we know about how a tent actually needs to be set up properly, and our consultant obviously double checked everything and told us step by step what exactly it means to have a tent in a place where 50 or 60 miles an hour winds are the norm of the day. We of course installed antennas. We had antennas, three verticals, using spider poles and aluminum poles from DX Engineering. We installed them according to specs, and they actually never failed. That was an amazing thing. But the specs that you have to follow, you really have to look in details and read the fine print to make sure that they will stay erect even at 50 or 60 mile winds or even more. This is a view from our camp. To the left you see the glacier, and to the right you see the ocean. There's a view of the inside of the tent. Basically what you do, you go outside, you do your work. When you get cold, you go back into your a sleeping bag. You warm up for half an hour, you get out and continue working, and making sure the camp is okay, and do all the chores that are needed. And from time to time, you get the chance of operating. In the middle of the tent, we have that heating, which worked excellent, but we wanted to conserve fuel, so we only used it for a couple hours a day, mostly to dry up some of the important clothing like gloves. We did have plenty of fuel, but we didn't know how long it's going to take until we get another good weather window, so we didn't want it to waste the fuel. Mother Nature is never doing things in your favor. We were hoping that we get supplies in 2-3 days, but we only got good weather. Maybe after a week we got a few supplies of food and some more fuel, and then after 10 days, when the best weather window we had, we're told that it's best to evacuate the island than take the chance of waiting another few weeks until we get another weather window. This is how the operating position looked like. Pretty Spartan setup, but you know, it was what it was. We were actually looking forward for that hour or two of operating each that we got a chance to do. We put the radios on top of each other on top of a bucket. We just sat on a couple of bags or on our knees when we did some operating. Initially, we wanted to operate, we planned to operate just CW and SSB. So we left the FT8 gear on the boat. But since weather never got good enough for us to get more radio gear, we had to figure things out. And we got on the air on FT8 a few days later. We did have some issues, but smart people that knew how to do things were able to work us. Some complained, but in the end, we were able to synchronize our clock and go back to the norm. We were able to do a lot of FT8 contacts, even with the us not having our clock synchronized. Maybe 20 or 30 feet from us was a penguin colony. They were sitting very close to each other. We learned later on that basically what they were doing, or they were protecting their chicks. Some big birds would pick up their chicks if the parents were not careful. They will pick up the chick, will raise it in the air, and then drop it somewhere on the cliff. The baby penguin would die, and then the birds would eat him alive. We found a lot of penguin bones on the island, and that's basically why they were there. Our gear was stored in a camp in these barrels, and there was even the barrels needed to be anchored down because the winds were really not friendly to us. There's another view of the of our camp with our tent. The blue under the blue tarp were our bags, and to the right where's the equipment that we put on the barrels, and then we see there the antennas. This is the 30-meter aluminum pole vertical. As a picture of these K2 radios, they worked very well, just like the Tabasco sauce that made our life a lot easier when it came to lunch. This is me operating. I looked like a homeless guy, but it is what it is when you're haven't had the shower in quite a long time. But the pleasure of the pileups always make you forget that you're hungry, you're dirty, you're tired, or whatever else. For us, Ham's pileups are just like music to our ears. As always, meal time is one of the best times of the day. Basically, what we would do, we would boil water and then put this water in those MRE envelopes. You stir for about 5 minutes, and then you eat. We had a lot of meals or very fancy names like pasta bolognese or I don't know, meatballs with the spaghetti or some other stuff. It tasted very good. Actually, a warm meal when it's cold is a godsend. When it snowed, it was actually a good day. We hated the rain because rain will get everything wet. When it was cold, all you had to do is get into your sleeping bag, and then it felt really good. So this is one of the good days when it actually snowed, or after the snow. I took a picture just to give you an idea of what the ground looked like. It was a mixture of gravel and these rocks, and below that, maybe a couple of inches below that, it was pretty heavy rock. So if you take a look at how many points we had to anchor our tent to stay erect, and because we were not allowed to leave anything behind, We had to even take the anchors out. We had to spend money on the anchors that allowed us to drill into the rock, put the anchor, screw it in, and then take it out at the time when we left. But at the beginning, we didn't realize we had to really anchor the tent, but our consultant, through his vast experience, was really a good teacher for us and told us what to do, and we just follow instructions and everything from how to tie those knots and how to anchor those tent. Another picture during the meal time. We had these the green container there contains pressured fuel. These are very good, actually allowed us to have that lasted for a week. One of those containers will heat food for 9 people for a week. Pretty good deal. Incredible Norwegian engineering. And those are 3 meals for 3 people. I was also the MREs were Norwegian made. They're very tasty, expensive like everything else in Norway, but we were happy with our meals. In our last day, when we had finally a good day to get off the island, and the 10th day, we took a picture. We were smiling, forcefully smiling, but mostly because we were thinking that we're going to get a hot shower on a boat, and we're going back to the French meals from Nina on the boat. 10 days on the island were really tough. You look into your brain and figure out, try to remember any of the prayers that you were taught when you were a kid, and you said, okay, this is a good time to say them, because life on the island was not really that easy. We had these VHF radios that we used to stay in contact with Marama, with the boat, also courtesy of Coleman and DX Engineering. And to the right, we had that Garmin GPS, which had unlimited texting, and we were able to text our families. We did have Starlink that stayed on the boat. We're hoping to bring them in a stage 2 or 3, but those stages never happened because we never had good enough weather to safely bring more equipment and more people on the island. The penguins are very cute. We try to stay away from them. They were quite confused when their path was obscured by some barrel or some item that we left temporarily on their path. They were cute to look at, but after a while, the stench from their excrements was really something to be avoided. So cute in the pictures, good to send home. This is a picture how it looked like on a good day from our camp. You can see the beach where we did our landing, the ice on the left, and the ocean to the right. Very good picture on a postcard. I love this picture, but I was glad to see it behind me when I was finally on the boat. There's another picture that was a bit adjusted color, pretty cute. Maybe we'll use it for our QSL cards. I think this is a little video. I don't know if you can see it. Again, the penguins are very cute. Not as much as the seals. We try to avoid staying in their path. So, and we also had, thanks to my friend Glenn, we had this satellite phone that actually we used in the end to synchronize the clock for the FT8. So it was good to use to call our families. Some of them got confused with the phone number, but it was really nice for them to hear our voices, and something for us to do on the boat, on the island, in addition to the daily chores and the pile-ups. I guess that's about it. I'm gonna turn the mic back to the control, and I'm ready to answer any questions. No
Well, very
questions
good. Thank you.
are.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Those were amazing pictures. Let's see, so let's say in person here, does anybody have any questions that they put down they want to pass up? Go ahead and do that. Question? And if not, let's see what we got on the Zoom.
Anybody else?
Okay, I don't see any questions on the from the Zoom folks. Send me a chat to nidxa@nidxa.org. I think is what it says. And okay, we got a few questions here
All right.
that Mike is collecting.
No questions are off limits. So
How many queues are, did you guys end up making, and did you break it? Can you break it down by mode?
Did you hear that,
Um,
Adrian?
yes. So we made around the 19,000 QSOs. And about 8,200 of those were unique calls. And I think about 6,000 of them were all-time new ones. And the exact distribution of the CWSSB and FT8, I don't know by heart, but they are available on CloudLog. I do know that most of the QSOs were made in CW. The next mode was FT8, and the last one was SSB. I think about half of the QSOs were CW.
With everything that transpired, this is from W9MR, and now that you've been there, would you do it again if the opportunity was presented?
Yes, why not? I like adventure. I think the only downside is the money. First of all, each of us pony up about $25,000. That's a lot of money for one DXpedition. And then raising money to go there is, not easy. And in the end, you are all subject to the weather. Even the previous DXpeditions that went to Bouvet, the biggest impediment was the weather. So you could go there and have good weather and make a lot of queues, or you could go there and not get on the island, or get on the island and not make enough queues or a lot of queues.
Okay. All right. One of the other questions that came on the Zoom is how much of the planned resources were unused, or was any of it unused?
Well, as I said in my presentation, we divided our plan in 4 stages. So stage number 1 was 2 stations. Stage number 2 was 4 stations. Stage number 3 was 8 stations, and stage number 4 was 12 stations. So in stage 1, we're able to do about 20,000 QSOs. But if we had the opportunity to use all the resources that we planned and go to the stage number 4, we would have, attained our 200,000 QSOs that we initially planned. We divided our work on stages because the only item or the only unknown that we had was the weather. We had details of the landing site, the boat, everything, but the weather. The weather was not on our side, and so only the stage number 1 was. We were able to put it into action. Those 4 stages are again listed on our website, and you can see them in detail.
Okay. The question I have, you mentioned the 4 people that were stuck on the island. Were you one of those people, and how dangerous did that feel or at the time?
No, I was not one of those. So in the initial reconnaissance team was our consultant, who obviously directed all the actions from the moment the 4 people left the boat. The other was one of the team leaders, Ken, Mike, and David. The 4 members went ashore, and the idea that they will stay there for about a day and then return and give us feedback and then go with the next stage of the planning. Obviously, you can't control the weather, so they got stuck there for a few days instead of the initial day that was planned. But it was all planned, meaning that they went ashore having extra food, extra clothing. They needed a small little tent. Of course, it was not a desired scenario, and it was not easy, but nothing related to Bouvet is easy, you know, from the planning to what you encounter there. So although it was not a desired situation, their life was not in danger, but again, it was not a pleasant way to spend time on Bouvet.
Right. What about, you ended up with fuel left and all that kind of stuff? How does that all play out? What,
Sorry, I
did you
don't-
leave that in South Africa, the diesel and some of the things that you didn't use because you never got to stage the later stages?
The diesel fuel, we put it into on the boat's tank, and I don't know the exact details of what was negotiated with the boat, but obviously we burned a lot of fuel during our return. We wanted to get home pretty quickly, so we when the wind was not in our favor, the boat used the engine to keep us at a steady pace. So all the diesel fuel was put back into the boat.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, you want to get home as quickly after all of that, probably
Yeah.
a jet would have been helpful. Because that's not how sailboats work. Very good. Did I have any other questions? Did anybody? I pulled everything I've seen off of the chat room here. So we'll let me just double check here, make sure I got to the bottom of that.
I think the general observation here, Adrian, everyone feels the same way. Thank you so much for the effort. It didn't go the way everybody wanted, but we sure do appreciate the effort you guys made to give people a new one.
Thank you. Well,
Round of
the
applause.
pleasure is ours. Are there any? I think there's some messages in the chat. Did you go over those, or I see that there's a
We've done some of
question.
them.
We did most of
You
them.
did? Okay.
Yeah, combined a couple and yeah.
What were the toilet facilities? I see a question there. Well, it's an interesting one in the sense that it was quite a challenge to solve, because the Norwegian Polar Institute that gave us the license to land on the island put quite a few conditions. One of them was whatever we take on the island, we have to get off the island. And that meant not only equipment and people, but that also meant human waste. And taking human waste from 9 people that stayed on the island for 10 days back on the boat was not really an easy challenge, to say the least. So we researched that, and we had this toilet, which is basically a bucket that we installed in a ravine, which was actually quite nice. It was one of the few places on our camp that was not that windy, which was needed because, you know, getting dressed up and undressed to go to the bathroom, it's it's a job in itself. I think the doctors calculated just to get to the bathroom, you would waste 200 to 300 calories. So The toilet was basically a bucket, and in a bucket was some kind of a high-tech gel that would take the human waste and I don't know, kind of compress it or something. So when that would fill up, we would put it on in plastic garbage bags, basically big, strong garbage bags. We tie it up, and then when we went back to the boat, we took all those bags to the boat, and of course we got rid of them once we got back to South Africa.
The one question that did you guys realize how much DQRM was going on?
We actually never heard it. We didn't hear the DQRM. First of all, we didn't have any noise. I was impressed. It's very rarely, and it's a pleasure to look at the ES meter and see S0. That was such a beauty, you know. It's like it never happens in today's time and age where everything is computerized and you have all these low quality LED lights and whatever. But we had no noise, which meant that we heard very well. Now, we only had 100 watts, so we were aware of the fact that we're not too strong. So we ended up calling people many times, you know, 3-5 times. You call somebody 5 times, you know, you get to the point where you think they just don't want to come back to you. But then obviously from the discussion with the pilots, we're told about the QRM. So we made an effort so that especially for hams in the disadvantaged areas that if we didn't hear us, you know, if we didn't hear them, we should keep trying. And for many calls, we had called them about 5 times. The downside to that is that your rate goes really down, and you know, you go on a DXpedition such as Bouvet, where you can easily do a rate of 200 or even 300 a minute, QSOs a minute, and then when an hour is gone and you look down, you see that you only made 50 QSOs. That's very you know, disheartening, to use a nice word. We could have made a lot more QSOs, but unfortunately the DQRM was one of the factors that kept us to under 20,000 QSOs.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. We're going to have to clear the room here shortly. And want to say again, thank you. And, you know, I think, you know, we look at it and we consider you a friend since we spent so much time with you at W9DXCC and even shared some beers and cheers with you as well. So we're like very happy to call you friend, and very much happy that you chose to come talk to us first. And we can't, that we value that a lot. I think in the room here that you came and talked to us. You have anything else, Ed?
I don't. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care. Thanks for going. Thanks for all that you guys did.
Well, thanks for having me here, and looking forward to see you guys at W9DXCC. I'm planning to visit. I have a lot of friends there, so I'm looking forward to have more beers and more gossip.
There you go.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Adrian.
73 from New York. See you guys soon.
Thanks, Adrian.